something that isn't true. There aren't 24 hours in a day. I mean, there are, but only because we say so. Because thousands of years ago in ancient Egypt, someone stuck a stick in the ground and watched the shadows to try and measure the arc of a day. And don't get me started on this trip called time, the trippity-slippity thing that doesn't exist in the first place. I ain't no Einstein, but I tell you what, there's only one thing that's ever stuck that doesn't need a stick in the ground for me to trust it. Hush, little baby, 'cause there's just this love. Love is the only truth, and the only truth is love. Again, love is the only truth, and the only truth is love.
When I let go of all that I believe, what isn't left is true. Release the stories of things I see, all I see is you. In the spaces between twilight, in the shelter of the dark, in the memories of sweet goodbyes, the beating of my heart, it's you. All that
something else that isn't true. What we call love, right? There's a guy at work, you don't even know his name, but you're sure he's the one who can satisfy that need that hurts and howls and wants what's real, till you find out he's married or gay or not gay and can't give you anything but need and more need. See, love doesn't ask. Love only answers, and the answer is always yes. I don't know much, but I tell you what, there's only one thing that's ever stuck. It doesn't need anything for me to trust it. Hush, little baby, 'cause there's just this love. Love is the only truth, and the only truth is love. Again, love is the only truth, and the only truth is love.
When I let go of all that I believe, what is left is true. Release the stories of things I see, all I see is you. In the spaces between twilight, in the shelter of the dark, in the memories of sweet goodbyes, the breaking of my heart, it's you. All that is you.
Love is the only truth, and the only truth is love.
All that
Love is the only truth, and the only truth is love. Love is the only truth, and the only truth is love.
all that
Love is the only truth, and the only truth is love. Love is the only truth.
Thank you so much. So good morning, everyone. My name is Reverend Kathy. I have the absolute delightful honor to introduce our ministers for today. They are doing the music and the message. You've been hearing their music, and pretty boring, wasn't it? No. Let's just thank them for their music.
Thank you.
That love song just touches me every time. It's just wide open, just wide open. Thank you for that. Melissa and Zia are the founders of Oh My God Life. Just say that with me.
Oh My God Life.
Doesn't that feel good? Back to Richard's happy inside. Their mission is to bring radical joy to the world. Reverend Melissa, Reverend Z, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Reverend Kathy. Thank you so much for having us here. Gosh, this is wonderful to be here this morning. All right, so I have a question for you. Where is the love? Here. Here, right. The love is here, right? We know here at Centers for Spiritual Living that there's one energy, one power, one life, and we can call it many things, including love. And that is the truth. That is the truth of me. That is the truth of you. That is the truth of everyone. And I don't know about you, but sometimes I feel the love more than other times. Do you know what I'm saying? Like sometimes I really know it. I feel it. I know it's the truth of me. I know it's the truth of you. And then other times, it's like I feel like I lose it, you know? Like, where, that's when I say, where is the love, right? I don't feel it as much in me. I don't feel it as much for other people or from other people. So what we're going to talk about today is hooking back into love when we feel like we've lost it. Because we know we really do never lose it. We are always love. We are made of love, but sometimes we forget that. So what we want to talk about today is getting hooked back in when we feel lost. How does that sound? Good. Okay. Melissa is going to get us started. Melissa? Key change. Go.
Right. So one of the things I'm going to be talking about here is loving me in the midst of things. And I am learning to love me in the midst of my OCD. Like that. So have you ever been triggered? So by triggered, what I mean is something happens and you have what could be considered by others, perhaps, if looking at the situation, an exaggerated response. A little bit more than maybe would be logical in the situation. Right? Triggered. So like some person's in front of you in the 15-item speedy checkout, and you count, of course, and they have 18 items in their basket, right? And you can't let it go for like while you're in the line, or maybe for hours. You can't let it go, right? Someone cuts in front of you on the freeway. You take it personally, to mention Don Miguel. Okay, so you get ballistic. Maybe you have little rage reaction inside. This to me is triggered. And I'm talking all the time, I lived in that. That was my reaction to everyone and everything all day, all the time. I like to say I was trigger happy. But I was not happy. I was trigger unhappy, maybe. So it just was like the world made me angry. So the good news about this is that on July 31st of this year, I have 30 years clean and sober. It's a really good thing, trust me. I wouldn't be here today. In many ways, I certainly wouldn't be in this room, but I probably wouldn't be here on the planet either. Anyway, that was part of what changed for me, what started to wake me up a little bit, right? Like, why am I triggered? So what we know is that if we are that kind of triggered, we are believing a lie. Here's my summary. If you are feeling toxic bad, you are believing a lie. Period. Now, I always like to mention here, because some people say, well, what about grief? Well, grief is its own little planet. And grief has to be allowed, or it will wreak havoc, and you will be triggered by other things, and you might be triggered into like not even grief. You won't think it is grief, but it might look like rage when actually it's grief, right? We have to let grief move through us. It's just going to have its way when we do that. And I still stand by the statement. If you are feeling toxic bad, you are believing a lie in this way. If you're in grief, like pure grief, it's really beautiful. Because connected with that grief, with the loss and the sadness, is the awareness of what you had. Right? Like, oh, I feel this much grief because I had this much love. So I'm setting grief into its own little place, on its own planet, because it is its own planet. So I'm talking about everything else. If you're feeling toxic, bad, you are believing a lie. Right? So what do we do to stop being so triggered by the world? Well, we find the lie. We look for what is it I'm believing that's making me feel this? And then we find the truth. Where do we find the truth? On the flip side of the lie. Right? Makes sense? So we do all kinds of things to help us get better at this. We see practitioners. We come to places like this. We meditate. We come to places like this and take classes. We do spiritual, psychological work of all kinds. I did some Toltec stuff, some NLP stuff. I mean, lots of stuff. I'm kind of a junkie. And we meditate. Did I mention that we meditate? Because the thing that all of it has in common is getting awake. Becoming aware, and becoming aware of the lie or the truth in any moment. When we become aware of the lie, we look on the flip side, we find the truth, and we will be happy when we find that truth, like pretty much all the time. So there was this one time years ago, and at this point in my life, I was deep into the work studying with Don Miguel Ruiz, which was a long time for me, over a decade spent a lot of time with him. And I was also in Practitioner 2 training. So for those of you who are newer here, practitioners have to take a lot of classes before they can take Prac 1 and then they take Prac 2. That's a 2-year program. There's a lot of training, a lot of looking and digging and healing and transformation that happens in that time. So the people who are here, who are practitioners, have done this work, right? So I was in practitioner training year 2. So I had done a lot of work. I knew the truth in this situation. What happened was I was traveling around. Back in the day, there was a long period of my life where some of you knew me, actually, some of your people here, where I toured around the country doing my music with Miguel and also other people and by myself, going to centers and churches and spiritual retreats and things all over the place all the time. That was my life. So I came home one day from a trip of like about 3 weeks long, and I had this big stack of letters from my bank. Good times. So when I opened the letters, what I discovered is that right before I left, I had made an error in my bookkeeping. I had entered a deposit twice. And did you know that if you enter a deposit twice, the money's not actually there? I don't know if I didn't know that or what, but I got home and turns out the money wasn't there. What I had done was, at that point in my life, I had a lot of debt. And I had decided, I've got this money. I'm going to send off a payment to pay down my debt. And I did. Only the money wasn't there. So it made all these checks bounce. And then I found, as I added up the letters, there was a fee. The fee totaled almost $1,000. Yeah, I left that bank. But anyway, it was not good. And they wouldn't reverse any of the charges. And it was just really painful bad for me. Now, I have to admit that for me, one of the biggest triggers of my life was especially then around money. if I had money stuff like that, like I made a mistake. I just made a mistake. It turned out to have rather dramatic ramifications and consequences, but I just made a mistake, right? We all make mistakes. But if I made a mistake around money, or I didn't have enough money, or something around money, I would go right into shame. And that shame would show up as self-abuse, internal dialogue that was like, you would never hear someone talking to someone out loud the way I would talk to myself. Talk about triggered, right? So that's what I was in. And I knew better, because I had done all this work, and I was working with Miguel, and I was so wise. Oh, I was so wise. And I just knew better. And so then I would like remind myself, you don't actually suck. That's not actually true. What's really true is you're a divine child of the all, and you're a beautiful being. And then I'd be like, oh, okay. And then I'd go, but I can't believe. And I'd go right down into it again. Over and over, hundreds of times a day for many days. I could not stay out of hell. I couldn't do it. Finally, I had this really powerful meditation that I knew. That was this tool I'd been given by two different teachers. Miguel, one of his teachers under him, but above me, if you will, more years with him. And also my NLP practitioner had given me the same meditation, almost word for word, like very, very similar. And I finally decided, clearly, I got to break out the big guns. I decided I'm going to go do this radical transformation meditation. So I told my then husband that I'd just be a few minutes, because I really thought I would just be a few minutes. And about an hour and a half later, I came out, and I was like literally in a state of shock. I was married at the time to a physician, and he recognized the moment I walked out that I was in a very different state than when I had gone into the room. Because I went searching for the lie, and I found it. The lie that I found was a memory of my mother. And this may or may not, I don't know if this was an actual memory of my mother, but it was definitely a stance of my mother in our relationship. In this image, she was saying to me, it's all about money, and you will never have it. So the backstory here is that my mother had two kids before me. I'm the baby, which does show up now and then in certain ways. But there were two kids before me, and in particular, the second one, my brother, was a very challenging child. But maybe regardless, I don't know if this would have been true regardless, my mom was feeling really complete with two, and my dad was really clear. He wanted one more. So my mother said to me all the years I was growing up, thinking, I believe really today, that she was meaning to be saying to me, I'm so glad I had you, right? But what she actually said to me many, many times through many, many years was, you're the best fight I ever lost with your father. Right. So when you say that to a child, what they hear is, I didn't want you. Which was true. She didn't want me. But what I came to realize in that meditation that night was, I came to the conclusion, which I think most people would, from hearing that over and over as a child, that I shouldn't be here. I suck. I mean, if you go down really, I'm going to give you a hack right here, a little shortcut. If you're looking for the lie from being triggered, that's kind of where you'll end up, no matter what trail you follow, and because of all that, I suck. I am not worthy. I am not deserving. I am not divine. I am not perfect. I am none of those things in reality. I suck. And what I got to in that meditation that day was like, oh, I have this very healed consciousness, and I know the truth. And underneath all of that is this lie on which all of it, like that was the foundation, was in reality, really, I suck. And because of this meditation, I knew to look for the truth. Well, so I found the lie. That was shocking to realize how much I'd taken that on. So what was the truth? And the truth is so a beautiful thing that it blew my mind into a state of shock. Because the truth was, even then, before I was consummated, what's that word? Conceived. Not consumed, no. Before I was conceived, thank you. Before that, Spirit wanted me here. The divine allness, the universe wanted me. So much so that it planted that compelling desire in my father, who never argued with my mother enough to win any argument, except for that one. And every breath I took up until that moment in time was evidence. Spirit wants me still. Spirit wants me here. Spirit wanted me all along. Spirit wanted me to be just exactly who I am right now. That is the truth of you. That's the reality of things. And with that, I went into a state of shock because it was so not where I had lived my life. I'd been walking around preaching the truth. But what I realized, you said it this morning a little bit, Richard, actually, that by saying I know my divinity, what at the time for me I was doing was affirming, trying to believe that truth. That's that line in the song I sang. When I let go of all that I believe, what is left is true. When we say something over and over, affirming it, we don't need to do that if we believe it's true. We don't need to, because it's true. We don't walk around saying the sun's going to rise tomorrow. The sky's going to be blue. Well, it's not always blue, but you know what I'm saying? We don't say those things because we know them so deeply. We believe them so fully. And so all of what I had ever said and done came from this desire to prove that it was okay that I came. Every thought I'd ever had. And so for weeks, I couldn't talk. I wasn't speaking. I would kind of be inspired to say something, and then I would think, well, I want to say that because then, I'll seem so cool. And then they'll think I'm cool, and then I'll know that I'm okay, and then it will be okay that I came. I mean, if I followed it. So I found the lie, and I found the truth. And I promise you, life has been getting better ever since. Like really radically. So much so that now I get to be with Z. So, and now I'm not saying, I'm done now. Layers of shame continue to be healed. All that is continuing to happen. But now, for years, I've had this mantra. You said it already this morning. That is, I stand in unapologetic confidence. I stand in unapologetic confidence. Can you say that with me? I stand in unapologetic confidence. Because when I looked at it, when I looked back and really with the wisdom of knowing the truth, looked back at my mother saying that to me all those years, I realized it was not me she didn't want. It really was not personal. That don't take anything personally. It was really true in that case. What it was she didn't want was the years of diapers and bottles and all of that. She felt done. She did not know, this woman, I'm going to name her Melissa. She's going to grow up and she's going to be a singer and she's going to tour and do speech. She's going to be a spiritual freak. She's going to be into all this weird stuff. And then say, no, I don't want her. She didn't want a baby that happened to grow into me. That's what she was trying to say by saying, you're the best fight I ever lost. Because I love you. I'm so glad you came. And that is not what I heard. Now, I do want to tell you, just for the happy ending story part, that the last 7 years of my mother's life, we had like a love fest that was amazing. That came after that, not surprisingly. Because I'd been really ticked off at her for my whole life. And then I realized all the good she had done. I stand in unapologetic confidence. And part of that for me is what I was saying at the beginning when I fixed that little thing that was bugging me. You know that little Verizon ad? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? So my thing is, can I love me now? Can I love me now? Can I love me now even as I decide to move this silly little cable wrap tie while people are just all sitting there waiting for me to actually talk? Yes, I can love me now. And so today, more and more, I'm still triggered by life. Life, we respond. We have thoughts and feelings in response to life, right? So I'm still triggered, but now I'm actually trigger happy. Because more and more in my life, as I continue to get awake by meditation and all those other tools that I mentioned that you know about, as I continue to do that work, I continue to know the truth of my divine nature, the reality that I'm made of that stuff that is everything and everywhere. That is who you are. That is who I am. And as I know that more and more deeply, then everything is a reminder of that. And so I am trigger happy. So my invitation to us all this morning is that we continue to look for the lie and look on the flip side to find the truth and then practice knowing and believing that so that we can be trigger happy. And so it is.
So it is.
Zeke.
Thank you, baby. Thank you, Melissa. All right. So, knowing the truth about ourselves, we can look for the lie, check on the flip side. I want to talk now about other people. All right? We're going to ramp it up a little. I've got a little story I'd love to tell you, actually. I call it the spiritual retreat from hell. Would you like to hear it? Yeah. All right. Okay. So this was years ago now. Melissa and I went on a spiritual retreat. We lead spiritual retreats, but at this particular spiritual retreat, we were just going to the retreat. And it was held at a conference center at a hotel, and we went for the first night, and we were meeting everybody. I didn't know anybody there except Melissa. So we're meeting all these new people. And, they have sort of meet and greet, what do they call, icebreaker exercises, all that kind of stuff. So I'm there. And I was feeling kind of shy. I didn't know anybody and kind of self-conscious because also, Shelley mentioned, it was a women's retreat. Now, I'm biologically female, so I was qualified to be there. And my gender identity expression, I describe it as gender rich. There's a whole lot of gender going on here, right? And so, for example, a lot of times if I'm at the checkout counter and the person doesn't know me and they say, "Can I help you, ma'am?" I'm actually kind of surprised because more often it's sir. I get it. That's fine. Women's bathrooms? Oh, those are fun. Yeah, more than once I've had a woman scream when I walk into the bathroom, and not in a good way. Yeah. So I like to bring Melissa with me to show that I'm pre-approved. That's one thing that can help. And also I have girl, boy. So I smile. And then I stick out what little I have, and then I got Melissa, and I go, that's the best way to do it. But really, I prefer, now more and more people are hip to this, so we have the all gender bathrooms. Those are my favorite. Yeah. Anyway, so here I am at this retreat, just wondering, how's this going to go? How's that, But nobody screamed. It seemed like it was good. We were good. So I'm okay, it's going to be fine. So we go back to our rooms that first night. Melissa and I had our own hotel room, and Melissa always goes to sleep like right away. She's one of those people. She just knocked out. And it takes me a while to go to sleep, so I'm lying there. And it was one of those hotel rooms, you know, when they have the door in between the rooms, but it's locked. You can't get into the next room, but it's there. So you can hear the people in the other room. And I'm lying in there in bed in the dark, and I'm realizing, I can hear them talking in the next room. I'm like listening in, and then I realize they're talking about me. Oh, yeah. Yeah. So it's there are two voices, two women's voices, and it's one in particular, and she's saying, I don't understand why she has to look like that. I don't understand why, if she hates men, she has to look like one. Okay, so we all know people talk about us, right? We all know it happens, but to actually hear people talk about you, yeah, it's kind of interesting. I'm also a good metaphysician, right? I knew in that moment, like there I was at the retreat, worried what they were going to think about me. And here I was attracting a situation where I was finding out exactly what one person thought about me. Also, though, the trick of knowing that our consciousness is creative and that we create our lives with our thoughts and our beliefs is to not beat ourselves up. Because how many times, I don't know about you, but how many times have I had something that happened that appeared to be the worst thing that could have possibly happened, that in the long run created so many wonderful things, right? That happens all the time. We know that, right? So it's just best in situations like that where things appear to be difficult to just stay curious, right? Just curious. What's this about? I don't know. Just stay curious. So I was doing my best to do that. But I gotta say, the next morning, I'm scanning the room, trying to figure out who had that voice, right? And it turned out 2 of the women had that voice, which was like good news, bad news, because it's like I was narrowing it down, but I also didn't know which one to hate. Talk about where's the love, right? Not a lot of it, yeah. Eventually, though, pretty soon, I figured out who it was, because they were right in the room next door, so we're all going back to our rooms at one point, and then there they are, so we could say hi, and I was right. It was one of the 2. And so I was able to say, hey, just so you know, there's just a door in between. The walls are kind of thin, so we can hear everything you're saying, right? It didn't bring me quite the satisfaction that I thought it would to like let her know that, Because also now I know who it is, so I can see this person, and I can see she's a few decades older than me. So back when she grew up, there were not a lot of gender-rich people walking around, not as many. So no, she just didn't know. And she also grew up in a very conservative religious household in a more conservative state. So again, no, this was just like she didn't understand it. And then the other thing I was thinking was everything she said started with, I don't understand why. Like she was saying, I don't get it. I don't get it. She was professing her ignorance, as it were. So did I mention this was a spiritual retreat? Yeah. So at one point we were doing an exercise of tapping into that one energy, one power, one presence. I love doing that, right? I love meditation. I love prayer. I love spiritual practice. So I was able to get there in that moment, and I'm in that place, that expanded space. And in that space, I'm thinking about my little neighbor, my little next door neighbor there, and thinking about the whole experience and thinking, when we're feeling some kind of judgment about somebody, it doesn't feel good, right? It doesn't feel good to be in that place of judgment. And that's why everybody loves to be in love. That's why it feels so we want to be in love. It feels good. And I was thinking, yeah, like if she had her choice, if she really thought about it, like between the choice of judgment and love, she'd want to choose love. She wants to love me. And then that became like this mantra. She wants to love me. She wants to love me. And then I was able to really easily forgive her, not from this place of like, oh, I forgive you and I'm better than you, right? But this real genuine forgiveness. She wants to love me. And also, I want to love her, because let's face it, I was being all judgy about her being judgy about me, which made me double judgy, which really was not good and didn't feel good to me. I want to love her. She wants to love me. I want to love her. And not only that, I want to love me, right? Because at that time, I was still coming into my own in terms of accepting my own gender identity and expression. This was like 10 years ago. And this experience was such that it was bringing this up for me to really look at and to be healed. I want to love me. And it's not a coincidence that I got there from spiritual practice, right? It was spiritual practice that got me to that place of expansion to be able to see the truth, like Melissa talked about, right? The truth. Love is the only truth. I was able to see that. She wants to love me. I want to love her. I want to love me. And I also could see that it's like when we know that truth, we can naturally be kind. And on the flip side of that, when we commit to kindness, when we commit to being kind no matter what, then it's easier to get to that place of love. There's a story that I love about a guy who goes to the doctor. He says, "Doctor, I hurt all over, everywhere. I hurt all over." And the doctor says, "Well, okay, could you be a little more, specific? Could you?" And so he goes, "Yeah, like right here. Oh, my knee. Oh, right there. Ow, ow, ow. Oh, and also my elbow right there. Ow, ow, ow. Oh, and my right eyebrow, right? Oh, right there. Ooh." So the doctor examines him, and then they say, I figured it out. You have a broken finger. When we look at life through a fractured lens, then everything hurts. But when we look through the eyes of Source, when we look through the truth, then we know the truth. We know, I want to love you, you want to love me, I want to love me, you want to love you. That is the truth. That's it. That is it. And when we can tap into that place through spiritual practice, we know that truth. And then, more and more often, when we say, "Where is the love?" we know. We know it is here, right here. Yeah. I invite you to take a breath and exhale with a sigh. And Melissa's going to lead you through one more exercise.
Aren't they amazing?
Yes.
I love my wife. Please repeat after me. Every breath I take.
Every breath I take
Is evidence that Spirit wants me.
Is evidence that Spirit wants me.
I am enough.
I am enough.
If I forget this truth,
If I forget this truth,
I look for the lie.
I look for the lie.
I check the flip side
I check the flip side
and find the truth.
and find the truth.
I am loved.
I am loved.
I love others,
I love others,
and others love me,
and others love me,
even if they don't know it yet.
even if they don't know it yet.
They want to love me,
They want to love me,
and I want to love them.
and I want to love them.
I stand
I stand
as love,
as love,
unapologetically confident.
unapologetically confident.
I know the truth
I know the truth
of my divine nature
of my divine nature
because I rock,
because I rock
and you rock,
and you rock,
because we all rock,
because we all rock,
because Spirit rocks.
because Spirit rocks.
And so it is.
And so it is.
And with that, if you would take a deep breath. Thank you, Spirit. Sweet, powerful beloved. Thank you for being the truth. Thank you for being that thing that when we let go of what we believe, you are what is there. You are what is here. here in me, here in Z, here and as each person here, each being here, seen and unseen. You, and only you. We are grateful to surrender to you, to your truth, to your infinite love, pouring yourself more powerfully, more fully, more recognizably through our consciousness. We get out of the way and allow you to use us as love in the world, learning more and more powerfully, beneficially, habitually to love and to allow ourselves to be loved by everything in life and by ourselves, by you. As we surrender to and allow this, we surrender to and receive greater good, greater joy, greater peace, greater happiness, triggered into happiness by you everywhere, all the time. Creating this life of, oh my God, joy, oh my God, life. So grateful to allow you to bring this, knowing that you know how to do it better than us. So we let go. We give it to you to do your thing, knowing that you do it perfectly. And we let it be. We let it be, and it is done. And so it is. Amen. Yay.
And so it is. All right, so we want to anchor this message in one more way, which is music and movement. So I want to ask you to, this is a call and response we're going to do now. So I'm going to invite you to repeat after me. So we're going to clarify.
Clarify.
I say clarify.
Clarify.
Magnify.
Magnify.
Okay, now I'm going to say occupy, and you say occupy your faith. Not your face. You're free to occupy your face, though. But this is occupy your faith. So I say occupy your faith. Okay, and then we're going to glorify. Testify. And now we're going to do the same on the third one. I say fortify, and you say fortify your faith. So fortify your faith. Beautiful. You'll get it. We'll do it a bunch of times. All right.
Right. And then to teach this to you, you'll echo me, but in the song, you'll sing with me, and you'll sing, fortify, 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 fortify your faith, fortify your faith, fortify, 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 fortify your faith, fortify your faith. That's it.
Beautiful. You guys got it. All right. You ready? So it's time for the track. Yes, we're going to hit it.
Fortify, fortify your faith.
Don't be alarmed. I like to move. No one's been hurt. When I was a child, a little bitty baby child, I didn't believe in nothing. Faith was for suckers, I told myself. People who are weak, people who need help. But all around me, everyone would say, you gotta believe, you gotta pray. Believing in nothing ain't no way. Here's what you gotta do. Each and every day, you gotta clarify, magnify, occupy your faith. And then you gotta glorify, testify, fortify your faith.
Oh, you've got to fortify your faith. Oh, you've got to fortify your faith. Oh, yeah.
Time went on, and I grew up. started to question. I said, what's up with my life, the world, the universe, how things work? Why am I here? Tell me now, what's my worth? I started to notice synchronicities and a power beyond what I could see. Next thing I knew, I heard Spirit say, here's what you gotta do. Each and every day you gotta clarify, magnify, occupy your faith. And then you gotta glorify, testify, fortify your faith.
Oh, you've got to fortify your faith. Oh, you've got to fortify your faith. You can do it. Make it stronger. Come on, pay attention. No need to wait. Fortify your faith. Yeah.
Now I know. Now I see. The faith is so much bigger than me. It starts in the heart and grows and grows. Where it stops, God only knows. So if you're down, if you're blue, remember the Spirit is bigger than you. Let it hold you, mold you, take you, shape you. And here is all you have to do. You gotta clarify, magnify, occupy your faith. And then you gotta glorify, testify, fortify your faith. Oh yeah, you gotta clarify, magnify, occupy your faith. And then you gotta glorify, testify, fortify your faith.
You've got to fortify your faith. Oh, you've got to fortify your faith. No, you've got to fortify your faith.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Whee!
All right. Oh, I gotta go back here now. Is that all?
Were we blessed or what? Thank you.